Hello, true believers. This is Doc Hogg, and welcome to episode 65 of Comics and Variety. If you like this channel, please do subscribe. Hit the notification bell to be notified when I post new videos. And for the sake of YouTube's search algorithm, please do hit the like button. Alrighty, before I move on to Captain America number 14 by Ta-Nehisi Coates, I first want to mention a comic book, an indie comic that I'm backing. It is about a harmless, lovable little fuzzball known as Six Gun Gorilla, written by Brian Christgau. You might think of it as a Clint Eastwood Western if Clint Eastwood had black fur and 6 shooters the size of cannons. The way I look at it, it looks to be kind of a retribution story. It is now over 60% of the way to its goal, however, a very modest goal, by the way, of $3,000. However, it only has about 4 days left. So let's get on it and get it the rest of the way. I'll provide a link to its Indiegogo campaign in the description below. Okay, moving on to Captain America. Or should I say, Captain AmeriKKKa number 14. This comic reminds me of The Amazing Spider-Man number 27 in that it is an example of how to ruin a potentially good story. If you haven't seen my review of Spider-Man number 27, I'll provide a link to the video in the description below. The plot here is that Captain America was set up by an entity called the Power Elite, and after he gets out of prison, he works to clear his name. But the problems with this comic book start on page 1. Here we go. There's a certain kind of guy who cleans his guns, prepping for the end. As for what the end actually means, well, he's not sure. All he knows is when it comes, he'll be ready. Paranoid? Afraid? I don't know about that. Yeah, sure you don't. Maybe they're just men, and like most of us, the problem isn't that we're afraid. It's that we're not afraid enough. So, Ta-Nehisi Coates, the writers of this book, Ta-Nehisi Coates and Nico Walter, they're off to a good start. And it continues a few pages later right here. Enter the watchdogs, man babies who never made it to state. Losers who dream of shooting up a school, because the head cheerleader never went behind the bleachers with them. I knew guys like this back during the war. Jackasses who didn't care one hoot about death camps or massacres or the Jews. They just wanted somebody to beat on, because they thought that's what men did. First off, this is another way that Marvel is saying up yours to its fans. Ask yourself, how many comic book nerds never got to make out behind the bleachers with a cheerleader? I'd bet most of them wanted to, but, this is something that could alienate a good portion of your fan base. And hey, I never got to make out with a cheerleader. I never made the football team because I gave up on sports around age 12 because I was as coordinated as a bowl of Jell-O. And chances are most of the guys on the football team didn't get to make out with the cheerleaders because of the simple reason that there are only so many cheerleaders to go around. That said, this is just not good from the standpoint of your customer base. It would be like if I wrote an article for Guns and Ammo saying that men like their guns because it helps them make up for other inadequacies, and then the editor at Guns and Ammo let it through. You just wouldn't do that. You need to know your customer base, and if a writer doesn't know that, it's the job of the editor to step in and say, hey, this isn't going to work. This is just not smart. Now, something else that is troublesome here is that there is a double standard at work. To see that, let's alter the dialogue boxes a bit. All right. Enter the watchdogs, women babies who never made it to state, losers who dream of shooting up a school, because the high school quarterback never took them to the homecoming dance. I knew gals like this back during the war. Jackasses who didn't care one hoot about death camps or massacres or the Jews. They just wanted somebody to beat on because they thought that's what women did. Now, if it had been written that way, you can bet that feminists and other SJWs would be up in arms. It would probably even get some media attention. But as long as you are doing it to the non-favored group, well, apparently it's okay. I'm also curious, why on earth is Marvel letting Ta-Nehisi Coates write Captain America? And I'm saying that as someone who has followed his run on Black Panther, and based on that, I think that, he does know how to write a pretty good story. My issue here is that Captain America is supposed to be about lauding America. He's patriotic, or he's supposed to be. He believes in American ideals like liberty, justice for all, and so on, hence the name Captain America. Now, that doesn't mean you can't explore some of America's flaws in a comic like this. Indeed, at times you probably should. It does mean, though, given the character, you can't take this constantly bleak, negative view of America in this comic book. Captain America is not a cynic. And it's no secret that Coates has a deep-seated resentment toward this country. And having him write a comic book like this would be like hiring Glenn Beck to write the comic Bitch Planet. Not that Image Comics would ever do that, but you can imagine the backlash that would happen if Image did do that. Where was the backlash when Marvel let Coates take over Captain America? Exactly. And of course, since Ta-Nehisi Coates has taken over, orders for Captain America from comic book stores has declined. Here are the numbers from Comicron. When Coates started in July of 2019, there were over 167,000 orders. Then there is this massive drop of 63% from July to August. Now, regarding comic books, drops from month 1 to month 2 are not that uncommon. But that said, this looks like an outlier. In other words, a very big drop that is unusual. I'm going to look at declines from month 1 to month 2 among comic books in a future video. Anyways, it keeps declining until November of 2018, and then it sort of hovers around an average of maybe 40,000 up to the present issue. I'm betting that Marvel wanted Captain America sales to be better than that, and if Coates was supposed to bring along a bunch of new readers, it hasn't happened, and my guess is that all he's done is drive away longtime Captain America fans. Finally, a few things about the art. You'll notice that the only red in Captain America's uniform is the stripe down the leg. It's absent from the rest of it, from the torso area where it traditionally has been, so no red, white, and blue. Maybe that's incidental, but I kind of doubt it. Then there is this splash page, which is pretty dull. A splash page is supposed to splash, hence the name splash page. This page has the ability to jump out at you like a guy with 2 broken legs. Finally, you have panels like this that make it look like Captain America's shield is disintegrating. It's not. It's supposed to be, shrapnel flying over the shield and over Captain America. But it looks like there are holes in the shield. Just bad art. Alrighty, I'll just end it by saying that I hope Coates is not on Captain America for much longer. Alrighty, that music means that it is time for Hogg's Headlines. All the news that Doc Hogg wants to report on. Dateline, Option Destroyers. A few weeks ago, the comic book company Terrific Productions, which puts out the comic book Youngblood, among other titles, sent out this tweet about a contest it was holding. Artists would draw a villain to face the hero Youngblood. The winner would see that villain in a comic book, presumably, and Terrific Productions was upfront that it would own the intellectual property of the villain. Well, that generated a huge backlash on Twitter, a small part of which you can see in these tweets. So I asked Chrissy here, what was so bad about this contest? And this was her reply, saying that Terrific Comics was taking advantage of a vulnerable group by not giving them fair compensation. So I followed up with this tweet, noting that she was using some pretty loaded terms, and she followed up with this tweet. Yeah, $350 an hour, okay. But no, your previous tweet didn't answer that. Anyway, there are so many things I could say about this. I mean, I could give an economics lecture. Okay, I won't do that. But what I will say here is that these folks are option destroyers. That is, this contest is an option for an unknown artist, with limited experience and having no serious achievements to his or her name, to get an achievement, something that they can put on a resume to attract paying customers. I suspect that most artists with some accomplishments who do paid work wouldn't bother with this contest. I'm pretty sure the guy I'm paying $300 to do the cover of my upcoming comic book has better things to do with his time. But even if he does participate, so what? No one is forcing him to. But most likely this contest will be entered by amateurs who are looking for a break. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that making it as an artist is very difficult. But that leads me to 2 points. First, if you succeed in stomping out these kinds of contests, you've now made it a little harder to break in. That amateur artist is trying to grab onto the first rung of the ladder, and now he or she is going to find it more difficult to do so. And second, I don't buy that all the opposition to this kind of a contest is driven by selfless but misguided notions of fair compensation and concern for vulnerable groups. Now, are some of the people who are opposing this contest motivated by that? Sure, some of them are. But I suspect a lot of the folks opposing this are paid artists who don't want the competition. That is, it's a selfish motivation. They want to destroy an option for an up-and-comer because they don't want another artist to compete with. And that is ultimately what they did. Terrific Comics gave in and gave up. And this is another example of why companies should not bow to the SJW outrage mob. It doesn't buy you any peace. Here is Terrific Comics redoing the contest, saying this time that contestants will only draw characters that are owned by Terrific Comics and that there will be prizes, i.e. a form of compensation. And they foolishly tried to poll readers about it, and here are the results. Well, that's all for now. Until next time, have a very nice day.